Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon, file this one under, if you don't go along, you have to move. Ray Russell is a freshman Democrat in the House. A few days ago, Russell's administrative assistant was told by House Rules Chair David Lewis that his office was being moved to make way for another legislator. His new office is in the basement of the legislative building. It was formerly a copy machine center in an area of the building with no windows. Russell has bucked House leadership from time to time and assumes the move is retribution for not going along with leadership. Have you ever heard anything of moves like this made in the middle of the session? And by the way, the legislator that is being replaced, there's already an empty office available. What do you think about this, John?
I don't think much of it. I think that even if you're going to make moves like this, you ought not to do it in the timing that you were describing. This office shuffle stuff has been going on ever since I've been around the legislature. There's always people who get aggrieved about the office they're assigned versus the office that's available. Of course, it's a lot better than it used to be.
Oh, yes.
But I just think that we need to focus on, I think that lawmakers and legislative leaders need to focus on the top issues facing themselves, facing the General Assembly, facing the state. And I suspect that the location of each individual member's office is not one of those things.
Yeah. It seems sort of petty, though, didn't it, Chris?
It's sort of petty. It's sort of the definition of petty. And I don't disagree that Democrats and Republicans have been playing this game when at the beginning of the session, especially when it changes and a new party takes over and they get better offices. But I can't recall, and I started covering the legislature in 1982, and I was in the Speaker's office when offices were assigned. And it's a very, it's one of the more heated debates internally of the session. But I've never seen this happen at sort of the end of a long session when one legislator is in fact punished and given a worse office out of pettiness. Is clearly, we ought to be a lot better than this. I thought the funniest thing was that the Democrats actually had a party for him and made light of it, which I think was probably the way to handle it. But we don't need to be getting into this kind of thing.
Indeed, I was going to play off of that. Some people may remember the famous episode of The Office where there's a downstairs windowless office that Michael turns into a dance party like a coffee house. I think that Ray Russell should be really getting some ideas for that episode. It turned out to be very successful. Made people happy. There was
the one thing I will say is most people did not know who Ray Russell was before this came about. He is now
forecast
infamous.
Calls for fun. Yeah. See, I think he could. He's a weather guy.
Okay.
I think he could do that.
You know, so far as it goes, my dad served in the legislature back in the 60s and the 70s, and those offices downstairs, that's where freshman legislators were originally assigned their first terms, and none of them had administrative assistants. In fact, there were very few offices where there were administrative assistants, committee chairs, and so forth. They had to work their way back up to better offices, but this one just seemed like an interesting story. Well, thank you for watching the Afterspin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.